Hi there, I'm Julie Davis for Blick Art Materials. In the 1800s, many pioneer and Civil War era homes were decorated with something called a penny carpet or a penny rug, made from stitched together pieces of recycled fabric. One story says they were called penny carpets because the designer traced around a penny to make a perfect circle, and some say they were stitched with a penny in each patch to make it lie flat. Let's make a modern day penny carpet today, based on the pioneer's ideas, but we're going to alter it just enough to make it a piece of fabric art. We'll incorporate printmaking, painting, markers, and of course, sewing. The first thing we need is a piece of fabric. I have an 8 by 10 piece of unbleached muslin here. It's very versatile, inexpensive, and easy to work with. It has this lovely neutral tone. I've ironed this one just to make sure that the wrinkles are out. We need also to have something available to make a print. And if you visit our website, we'll tell you how to make a printing plate from acrylic gel medium, like this piece you see here. It acts like a stamp. Paint it up and press it down. But for our demo purposes today, we're going to simplify just a little bit and use a material called print foam. True to its name, it's foam for printing. It's coated to receive and release color very smoothly. Speaking of color, we're going to be using something called jacquard textile colors, developed to be very permanent on fabric. I've cut my print foam into a free-form shape, as you see here, any shape that you'd like it to be. First, I'm going to texturize it with some wooden modeling tools. I want to create some lines and some patterns by embossing it, as you see here. I can use a thinner tool to make some thinner lines, perhaps some cross-hatching, and a bit of a thicker tool to make stippling textures or large areas of embossing. Once I get it to where I'd like it, now it's time to apply the paint. A foam brush works really well for applying the paint. We'll just brush it right onto the print foam here. It doesn't dry very quickly, so you don't need to rush it, but you can't drag it on too much either. Let's just apply a few colors. Apply it rather thickly. And the next thing I'm going to do is use something called a color shaper. These have a rubber tip at the end, and they are developed for precisely what I'm doing right here, removing some areas of color. They come in a set with some different shapes, so you can get different results. Okay, once I get this to where I'd like it, I'm going to try and make a print. So I'll move my piece of muslin back up here. I'm going to turn it over gently and lay it in a corner. Then I'm going to press down firmly with my hands. Just firm, even pressure, like so. Now let's lift it and look what we have. That's a pretty nice print. I could go back now and ink this up, apply some more color again, do another print on top of that, just to get a little more contrast into it if I'd like. But for now, I'm going to set this aside to dry. And I'm going to bring out a piece here that's already dry and has been cut down to shape. Now this looks pretty good as it is, but I'd kind of like to go back in there and define some more of the shapes. So I'm going to use a fabric marker. These are Fabric Mate Superfine markers. As you can see, they have a brush tip so I can get some very fine lines. I can also turn it over on its side and get some very broad lines as well. All right, so once I've touched that up just to where I want it, that's one complete print. I can make as many of these as I wanted to make a penny carpet, but I'm going to limit it to just a few because there's a lot more work to be done. Next, I lay my fabric design onto a piece of felt. Then I'm going to take one of these markers and I'm going to trace a line, 1/4 of an inch to perhaps 1/2 an inch away from the edge of the muslin. And then I'm going to cut it out, as I've done with this piece right here. The next step will be to take a contrasting piece of fabric or felt and make one more layer in the same way. So here's what we have. 3 layers equals 1 cell for the penny carpet. And the next step is sewing, so get out the needle and embroidery floss. I have loaded this needle with about 3 strands of embroidery floss, and I like to choose a contrasting color, so I have a bright orange. A simple stitch from the back side to the front and back again secures the muslin to the felt. Repeat that from the first layer of felt to the second layer of felt, and that secures all 3 pieces together. You'll keep going all the way around this cell. Don't worry if it's not perfect. It doesn't need to be, and you can also use other embroidery stitches too to mix it up and make it fun. Here's some finished cells. I'm going to just lay them down the way that I'd like my carpet to stitch together. And then you'll come back with the embroidery floss and stitch just along the edges to get them to stay together. Now a carpet like this can be finished, but if you want to display it on the wall, you just mount it to a piece of colorful foam board or cardboard, or even heavy felt for strength. There's a number of options you can consider. Instead of using the print foam, you could stamp or block print the muslin or simply paint directly on it. You can embellish your penny carpet by adding buttons, beads, and other materials, and if you're working with young children who may not be able to handle the needle, the pieces can simply be glued together. And in the tradition of a true penny carpet, you can also recycle fabric scraps, as in this example, using recycled denim. DickBlick.com is the place to find all of these materials and thousands more. There's a printable copy of this lesson plan and a list of teaching standards so that you can see how this project is developed for visual arts education. Thanks so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoy making your own penny carpet.